I think Group C thinks it's under the Greater Discourse to Sachaka, MN 36, in page 28. And how is one developed in body and developed in mind? I think here is the example being given that when one is developed in body and when one is developed in mind, how does one react or actually treat pleasant feeling and unpleasant feelings that arose in the mind? And I think under page 31, where there's a subnote on the commentary, where it says that development of body here is insight and development of mind is concentration. So this is one of the possible meanings. And in SN 35, Bharadwaja, it cites an example of how young monks who are developed in body and developed in mind would actually guard their sense doors. They practice sense restraint. So it gives us interpretation that one who is developed in body and mind would be one who actually practices sense restraint and guards the sense doors.
Are you sure? Are you sure that you got it right? Because the terms development body versus behavior, mind, and wisdom were used by the king to describe someone who can effectively practice the 31 parts of the body, not sense restraint.
So it's different.
Yeah, very good. Okay.
In Chunda, in this sutta, it gives us an inference that when one is developed in body and developed in mind, he is not overcome by greed, hatred, or evil.
So does that throw any light on what these individual terms mean?
Not explicitly, but yeah, it's not an explicit explanation, but it just implies that if one is already developed in body and mind, he's not overcome by greed, nor is it overcome by hatred or evil.
But these are used as a comparative term, all the four, not just developing body and mind. Developing body versus behavior, mind, and wisdom. Okay, anyway.
And, page 46 on sense faculties. This section does not really explain, again, what is developed in body and developed in mind, but it explains the path leading towards it. Yeah, so we had a discussion on this area, but we couldn't arrive at the conclusion yet. It seems that it explains more about the path leading towards the development of body and development of mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
In respect of being developed in body and mind, we have actually classified them according to the different sources. For source number one, in terms of the Greater Discourse to Sachaka, which is from MN 36, developing body to us, we would take it to mean that one does not lust or continue to lust after pleasurable feelings, and the pleasant feelings do not invade his mind upon the contact with the sense object. Okay, and being developed in mind would mean that the unpleasant feeling does not invade his mind upon contact with the six sense doors. In respect of the future perils extracted from Anguttara Nikaya 5.79, developing body would mean one actually possesses the higher virtuous behavior, which is Adi Sila. That would actually mean to actually observe the Patimokkha and the Vinaya, very strictly and impeccably.
Where is that? Which passage is that?
From future perils. Well, the sutta actually says having higher virtuous behavior.
Where does it say so?
In the future, there will be bhikkhus who are undeveloped in body, virtuous behavior, mind, and wisdom. They will give ordination to others, but they will not be able to discipline them in the higher virtuous behavior, the higher mind and higher wisdom. So we would actually classify that being undeveloped in body would actually mean, basically one does not actually have the higher virtuous behavior.
Okay, here, higher virtuous behavior, higher mind, and higher wisdom are only three.
Yes.
But here we have developed in body, virtuous behavior, mind, and wisdom. There are four. So how will you put that in?
Implicitly, it would then appear that this body and virtuous behavior would have been subsumed into the higher virtuous behavior, followed by the mind, which is the higher mind, the Adi Chitta, followed by Adi Panya, which is actually the wisdom. So if you classify them into these three categories, it would then appear that undeveloped in body and virtuous behavior will fall into the category of higher virtuous behavior. One who is actually not developed in body would then mean that he is actually not able to develop higher virtuous behavior.
Okay.
So if you look in that context. Okay, and then for Chunda, from AN 10.24, here actually the whole range of the qualities is actually being mentioned in the same breath for the spiritual attainment of someone who is able to overcome greed, hatred, and desire. And these defilements and taints do not appear to persist in that person. So being developed in body, to us, we would take the interpretation that it is the same for both developed in body and mind. Because the qualities that is actually being mentioned here is somebody who is not to be overcome and overwhelmed by this great hatred and desire, and these defilements do not persist in him. So it would apply for both being developed in body and mind.
It applies to all of them.
Correct.
Because the four terms are used in a composite manner.
Yes, I agree,
So
Bhante.
there's no specific
It doesn't actually pinpoint as to which corresponds to which. So it is actually mentioned in the same breath for all the qualities.
Yes.
So that would be the end result, that Bhikkhu is not overcome by these defilements and taints, and these taints do not persist in him.
Yeah, but actually it doesn't throw any light on the individual terms.
Yes.
As a composite, someone who's developed all these things would have this quality of not being overwhelmed by these circumstances.
Yes.
Correct.
Unlike in contradiction to say Sachaka Sutta, where it's actually more clearly defined as to which item means.
Right.
So for this is actually mentioned for all four qualities.
Same also for future parents. Future parents is for all the four qualities.
Okay.
In every paragraph also you have higher virtue.
Yeah, but because we have actually classified it according to the Sila Samadhi Panya.
Yeah.
So we actually associate the development in body and virtuous behavior to be subsumed under Adi Sila, which is the higher virtue.
Okay.
For the fourth source, in respect of the Bharatvaja, SN 35.127, development in body would mean that it's actually able to contemplate the unattractiveness of the body, which is the Asubha, contemplation of the 31 parts of the body. For part 2, actually, we have also associated the development in body to mean also the sense restraint, because it was mentioned immediately after when the king posed a question to Ayasma Pindola, as to what if the mind is so fickle and so lustful, and that even though you contemplate it, that is basically unattractive, but the mind still keeps telling you that it's beautiful. So we took it to mean that the sense restraint is actually linked to the development in body. It's like a further step to how one can actually be developed in body. So we took that as two subsets of the whole in being developed in body.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, in this sutta also, there is actually no distinction as to what development in mind. The four qualities are actually being mentioned together for this. Okay. So for Netipakarana, the guide, we just extracted it for development in body to mean right action and right effort in the cultivation of the Noble Eightfold Path, and in respect of development in mind to mean right sati and right samadhi as set out in the Netipakarana. For the last sutta on the sense faculties, development in body would mean sense restraint of the six sense doors, and development in mind would mean right samadhi.
Okay. Thank you.
It's a very complicated chart. There are so many things to be written. I'll try my best. Under MN 36, when you are developed in body, it does not last after pleasure. Under mind, does not sorrow, grieve, or lament.
Because of what?
Not sure, but we are just extracting the database.
So you don't pass your comprehension test.
Time pressure. Under commentaries, developed in body, we have got insight, impermanence, unsatisfactory, and non-self. And for commentaries, developed in mind, we have concentration.
Okay.
Under AN 579, we couldn't find anything under development in body, mind, virtue, or wisdom. Neither is there commentaries. As for AN 10.24, it is a cluster when you are developed in body, mind, virtue, and wisdom. Then there is no greed, no hatred, no delusion, no anger, no hostility, no denigration, no insolence, no miserliness, no evil, and no envy. And that's on page 36 of our notes.
Okay.
All right. Under SN 35.127, if you are developed in body, mind, virtue, and wisdom, you attend to the body as foul.
This is also for the composite, for all of the four, right?
Yeah, all the four together.
Yeah.
This is being highlighted. As for the commentary, it appears on page 41. When you have developed in body, mind, virtue, and wisdom, you have a sense restraint.
Are you sure? Are you sure it refers to all the four?
It appears so.
Right? Where? Page what?
So just for the body alone, it says here, undeveloped in the body of the five sense law is lacking in sense restraint. So we interpret the other way. When you develop in the body, then there is sense restraint.
Sense restraint of 5 dots.
Five sense law.
Okay, at this point, somebody pointed out a typo error. If you look at the Pali at the bottom, Abhavita Pancha Dwarika Kakya. Can you see that? Right, at the page 41. Page 41, note 121. Can you see the word? The last K-A-K-Y-A. There's no K, no K-Y-A. It's only K-A-Y-A. There's that extra K there. So please delete that. Okay, can you please go on?
Okay, as for Paras 536.
Paras 536 of where? Page what?
Page 44.
Oh, you mean the guide?
Yeah.
The guide. Right, okay.
So when you are developed in the body, you have got right action and you've got right effort. When you are developed in the mind, you've got right mindfulness and you've got right samadhi.
Correct.
And we are developed in the virtue, you've got right speech and right livelihood. And we are developed in the wisdom, you've got right view and right thought.
Okay. Good. What else? But what are those? What are those written in red and yellow?
So in Paras 535, there's a mention that when one develops samatha vipassana, two factors of existence, bhava gani and the body and mind chitta, approach development, the way leading to the cessation of existence, the two bases, virtue and samadhi, also approach development. The bhikkhu is developed in body, virtue, mind, and wisdom. So we just make a note that there's a mention of samatha vipassana under that paragraph 535 on page 44. Under the commentaries, page 45 at the bottom, the commentary suggests two interpretations of the developed in the body and virtue, fulfillment of the training pertaining to the proper conduct of the training fundamental to the spiritual life, or two, develop in the body of the five sense laws in terms of restraint of the sense faculties and develop in the other aspects of the virtue as stipulated in the Vinaya. So listed here virtue and wisdom.
Where about wisdom? That's developed in body and virtue. These are trying to distinguish between body and virtue. Your arrangement is body, mind, virtue instead of body, virtue, mind. So you confuse yourself.
Okay. We mix up there. Okay. So anyway, those are the two things that need we make a note of there. Yeah.
Okay. What else?
So under the lump of salt, it is here, the yellow. Okay. Maybe you explain.
It says regarding the lump of salt, they will achieve development in body, whereas the other one will be grown in virtue.
Which one?
This one, virtue. Grown in virtuous behavior.
Oh, you mean the commentary to the lump of salt?
Yes, commentaries. Yes, correct.
Okay. I see you all didn't put a separate column, so it's very confusing.
No more space. Yeah, so
no more people also.
No more paper. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The structure here is on the left, we have developed for which part, and then after that, followed by the sutta and the commentaries. All right? So for Sutta MN 36, Sachaka, it actually involves two, body and mind. All right? And that's for the body, it's not influenced by pleasant feelings. All right? Can refer back to page 28. And for the mind, it's not influenced by painful feelings. It can be touched by it, but not being affected by it. Yeah. Then the commentaries involved from the insight at Vipassana on page 31. And for the mind, it would involve concentration, according to the commentaries. It's also at page 31. And for Sutta AN 5.79, Future Perils, it involves four of the body, virtue, mind, and wisdom. Okay, you got to recognize the 5 future perils and make efforts to abandon them. Okay, at page 30. And the commentaries involved would be sense restraint. And also, that is for the body. But for the virtue, then restraining in 5 ways. Okay, page 31. That involves the B, M, K, P, and E. So
What's that formula?
let's read that. 31. Okay, that will be behavior, mindfulness, knowledge, patience, and energy. Okay, moving on to the next sutta, Chunda. And this applies for bhikkhus and involves all of the development of all this body, virtue, mind, and wisdom. The excerpt is like this: when you see and you observe the other's wrong behavior, and then you got to rectify oneself. Okay? And the commentaries involved is actually on page 37. So this basically, that particular bhikkhu is making claim to arahantship. Okay, moving on to Sutta SN 35.127, Bharadvaja. So it also involves the 4. It not only restrains the 5 senses, but also the mind. Okay? The commentary involved would be body... Sorry, I forgot.
Body born of impurity.
Yes, thank you. And restrain the 5 sense doors and movements that express oneself. The next sutta would be the guide, page 44. Also involves 4 of them. So this involves all the right things already. So, and every right things, there's 2 right things there. So for body, you have right actions, right efforts. For virtue, you have right speech, right livelihood. Mind, right mindfulness, right concentration. For wisdom, you have right view and right thoughts, all on page 44. The commentaries involved is actually all on page 45. So it's actually the fulfillment of the training, okay, of proper conduct. And then also involves the 5 sense doors. And then the training of the fundamental to the spiritual life. Okay. Moving on to the next sutta is the sense faculties. Yep. So also involves the 4. Then the restraint of the 5 sense faculties. That is for the body. For virtue, it's practicing virtuous behavior. And then right concentration. And for wisdom, then knowledge and vision of things
As they really are.
As they really are. Thank you. Last but not least, from a lump of salt. So what we can gather there is basically everything at the commentary. Okay. So for the body is actually contemplation of the body when they practice. Okay. And for virtue, then basically also applies to bhikkhus. So they practice on Mahato, virtue and character. All right. All these, they are on commentary 550 on page 17. So let me read out a little bit on that. The commentaries read as he is unlimited because his virtues are not limited. Even when his body is small, he has a great character because of greatness of his virtues. So all these, they grow in virtuous behavior for the development of mind, so they have this development and growing in mind. And for wisdom, then it will actually contribute to the growing of wisdom there. For the commentaries for the Arahant, then we can just refer to page 48.
Oh, okay. It's for the footnote, right?
Yep, done.
Okay, thank you
Thank you.
for a very comprehensive answer.
Thank you.
First, we're looking at development of body. The reference here we have is Sachaka, which is arisen, pleasant, and painful feelings do not invade his mind and remain. Next is the future perils, which we got it from the commentary, restraint of the 5 sense doors. And third one is Chunda, with greed and evil desire, do not overcome bhikkhu and persist. The fourth one is Bharadwaja, which is guarding the doors of sense faculties. And the last one is the guide. We come up with right action and right effort.
Wait a minute, can I ask a couple of questions? You say in future perils, what did it say? Oh, restraint of the 5 senses, is it? That one is according to the commentary.
Yeah,
right?
commentary.
Chunda Sutta? Chunda, number 3.
Greed and evil desire.
Does it apply only to development of body or to all? To all,
Both.
isn't it?
Yeah, to all.
To all, so it's
Yeah.
not only for body. Correct? It can also mean develop in virtuous behavior, in mind, in wisdom. All also have the same thing.
Yes, so we put both with the same answer.
Okay. All right. Then Bharadwaja, where does it say? Is a commentary? Is it that talks about guarding the sense doors? Is it in the sutta itself?
Guarding the doors of sense faculties, it's
Is it? I mean, it's in Bharadwaja Sutta, but is that the definition of development body?
I think so.
You look kind of blur. Do you all agree? Do you think it is? You all also look blur. Okay, never mind, go on.
So the next one is development of mind. First, we come back to Sachaka. Arisen painful feelings does not invade mind and remain. For future perils, there's a commentary that is fault-finding mind.
Does that apply to mind? Does it apply only to development of mind or to all, everything? What does it apply to? Or does it not apply to anything?
I'm not sure.
Ask your
I
group
think it
members.
does.
Ask your group members to help you. Come on, whoever suggested to write it down, you have to know the reason.
Where is our leader?
He ran to the back.
The group was a bit blurry, so we got some suggestions from our leader. Then we learned something also. That's why we got it here.
Okay, what else?
Chunda, that is greed, hatred, and delusion, do not overcome and persist.
Okay.
And then we have Bharadaja, that is guard against evil, unwholesome states of greed and hatred. Any comments before I move on?
You look at me, I look at you.
The leader over there. Any comments?
What's the last one?
The guide.
Oh.
Mindfulness, right mindfulness and right samadhi.
Yeah. Guide is very obvious.
Yeah, that's developing the mind.
Okay. That's all? Anything else?
That's all.
All right. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So when we were discussing this, what we did is for each of the suttas, we felt that actually the mind controls the body. That's why in each of them we felt it is actually very closely connected. So rather than doing it separately, we have done it in a way together. So for MN 36, to have insight and awareness is to ensure that we do not fall prey to pleasant feelings and be driven by lust, right? And as well painful feelings, right, which will then drive sorrow. And if we are able to achieve this, then this does not invade the mind, and we can hence be in better control as well of both body and mind. For AN 5.71, by ensuring that we don't fall into the dark dharma, we have to be very aware of the need to keep the fivefold discipline, which is virtuous behavior, mindfulness, knowledge, patience, and energy.
Where does it come from?
Where does it come from?
Where does that list come from?
Where does this? From the commentary. This list comes from the commentary.
Oh, okay, yeah. Commentary, all right.
And in doing that, what we want to develop is really higher mind, higher virtuous behavior, and higher wisdom, so not to be misled by others.
Where did the higher come from?
I think the commentary also.
Yeah. Are you sure or not?
The commentary.
Are you sure or not?
So I will confuse you more.
Please quote the page number.
Team, which page number? Huh? 30. Team effort. Second paragraph, fourth line. Page 30, yeah. They in turn will give full ordination to others. But you want to have higher virtuous behavior, higher mind, and higher wisdom.
Is this going to do with the develop in mind or in body?
Mind, yes.
Mind, huh?
Up here, yes.
Higher virtuous behavior also to do with the mind?
Yes. So it, just because we put it here doesn't mean it has to do with the mind or body. Reason is, for me, I personally feel that what we do, how we act is really driven by the mind. Yeah, hence there was a bit of confusion. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we put it here, it has to do with the body.
So you are sidestepping the question, huh?
Which one?
Okay. That's thinking out of the box.
So for AN 1024, for us to know that we are developed, we need to ensure that we overcome hate, greed, and delusion. So it doesn't mean that if we feel we have virtuous behavior, mind, and wisdom, that we are truly in control if we cannot overcome these three.
So this actually means that if you are able to overcome greed, hatred, and delusion, It means that you're developed in all the four aspects, body, virtuous behavior, mind, and wisdom, correct?
Maybe it's the other way around. Sorry. If we are developed in, maybe that was a trick. I hope that was a trick. If we are able to if we truly believe we are virtuous in behavior, mind, and wisdom, then we would have overcome hate, greed, and delusion.
What light does it throw on what each of these four qualities could mean? You see, the purpose of this cross-reference is to find out what develop in body and develop in mind means. So how does this throw any light on whether this is referring to body or mind or to which one?
I think in mind, to mind. My team confirm.
Okay.
And the last one is now a lady with a braid. So SN 35.127 for young bhikkhus, when they look at women of different ages, they should love them and treat them as if they are their mother, sisters, or daughters, and also guard the doors of the sense faculties by looking at, between the tips of the hair and the soles of the feet, really to look at it as the different parts of the human analogy.
Wow, you're putting three answers into one, huh?
Body, mind.
Okay.
Okay.
Is that all?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for your creative answers.